Hello everybody. In this video I'm going to show you how we can get the computer to make decisions. This means that we can change what the computer does based on certain conditions. For instance, on your input. Let me show you. Let's start by going into BlueJ and create a new project. And I'll call the project Decisions. And in that project, let's make a new class. I'm going to call that class Iffy. There it is. We make this a tad bit smaller so we have room for everything. We open up the editor and write a description of the Iffy class. And add my name. And this is probably the first and only version we'll ever make of this class. Now all of this stuff in here we can get rid of. And then create a new main method. And let me compile this and run it and see that everything works. Okay, good. So what I want to do now is create a method that compares my age to the driving age and then displays whether I'm allowed to drive or not. So first let me define my age. And let me define the driving age. Now see if you can just intuitively understand what I'm doing next. Let me compile that and let's run it and see what happens. So in this case, let me move this over a bit. You can see that this printed out no driving for you. Now let me change my age to 19 and see what happens. So compile and run, and nothing is output. So in this case, this statement is only executed whenever this condition is true. And I can show you exactly how that happens in something called a debugger. And here it is. So first I'm gonna click over here to put a stop sign, which means the debugger will stop when we get to that line. It happens to be the first line that we're executing, so that's fortunate. And as you can tell here, the debugger has stopped, and we are now on this line with the green arrow that's also marked in green. And we can now single step one step at a time by clicking here and to see what happens. Here's the condition. We can see the values of the variables over here. My age is 19, driving age is 18, so we should not go into the body of the if statement. And sure enough, we pass right past it. So let me finish that. and go back to making this 17, and let's see what happens line by line. Compile and execute. So let's see. We get to the if statement, and this time we go into the body of the if statement and print out the string in the println method. There you go. And finish that. Now let's say I wanted to print something out. If I am allowed to drive, I can do that in another if statement right below this one. So let's see what happens now. In this case, we go into the body of the first if statement, and when we come out of it, we do not go into the body of the second if statement. Let me continue that. And let's see what happens if we change this to 19. I'll compile that. Put the breakpoint here. And start up the method. So let's see what happens. So we pass right over the first if statement, but we go into the second one. Like that. Now this second condition is exactly the opposite of the first condition. And there's a different way of saying that. Let me show you. The bang says that if this expression is true, then with the bang it becomes false, and if the blue expression is false, with the bang it becomes true. So this should be exactly the same as what we had before. However, the people who created Java recognized that this is such a common situation that we can just replace this and say else. And I'll demonstrate that for you. And we'll single step. And in this case, because we did not go into the body of the if statement, we went into the body of the else statement. Now let's say I live in a country where you can get a learner's permit at the age of 16. And let's modify the method accordingly. Let's say I start out at 17 and the learner's permit age is 16. In that case, if my age is below the learner's permit age, there's no driving. However, if I'm above that age but below the driving age, in that case, I have to drive really carefully. And that is probably all we need. So let's go through this. If my age is below the learner's permit age, then we go into this body. However, if that is not the case, else, but it is the case that my age is below the driving age, then I have to drive really, really carefully. And finally, if neither one of those are the case, then this statement down here is executed. Let me show you. All right, we'll step. So we didn't go into the first if statement. Let's see if we go into the second one. Yes, we did, because my age is less than the driving age. And we completely circumvent the last else. And that is all there is to if, else, and else if. In Java, there is another kind of conditional statement called a case or a switch statement. Let me show you. Let's create a new class. I'm going to call this class Casey. And let's write in a description. And let's get rid of all this stuff. And put in a main method. Let's compile that and see that we haven't done anything wrong yet. Well, that seemed to work. So that's good. We can even run it. And perfect, no errors. So let's say we want to turn numbers into words, so that we want the number 1 to become the string 1 and the number 2 to become the string TWO, etc. Now to make that happen, let's write up an if statement. Notice that I use double equals here, which is the comparison operator. And apparently I can't count very far. Now this is fairly straightforward, just like we did before. If we run that, here's the result. So no problem. But this is a common enough occurrence that the people who designed Java have come up with a language construct for this exact situation. Let me show you. I'm going to put in the new construct up here so you can see exactly how it compares to the if version. So here's how this works. This comparison is the same as this comparison, given that the switch the switch variable is the same variable. This corresponds to this, and the default corresponds to the general else at the end of the line. So let's see if these two output the same thing. Compile and run. Sure enough, we get two 2s, one from up here and one from down here. And that is the last conditional statement.